how does this strategy help them shape that next decision, that hard decision in their lives of maybe making a change or an adjustment in their career, their life, whatever it is that they're going through?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at this whether is this just an experience that you want to go and have the thrill of doing, or is this something that you really want to commit to? So the first thing that I feel like people need to do is connect with what I call wonder. So the people who are disconnected from wonder, they're the ones who they don't know who they are and they don't know where they want to go. So the ways to tackle that, this is what I do with the clients that I work with. We say, cool, we got to get to know who you are. So the way that we do that is to look at what I call winning traits, but you could also look at it in terms of values or the core values that drive you. So for me, the core values that drive me are growth. I need to be growing. I need the people around me to be growing. And if that happens, that's really good. Connection is my second one. So I need to be connected with who I am. I need other people around me. I need to be deeply connected with them. I need them to be deeply connected with impact rather than watching TV and just wasting their lives. And the third one is integrity. I need people around me who are acting with integrity and really living that. And on the conditions that I have connection, growth, integrity in my life, then I'm great. Everything in my life is really good. So if you know what your winning traits are, and if you don't know what your winning traits are, I'm happy to go through a bit of an exercise that can help people get a bit of clarity on that. Write down three people. If you're driving, maybe pull over to the side of the road while you do this. Write down the names of three people who you know personally, who you respect and you admire. So one of them might be a spouse, maybe a best friend, and maybe a work colleague. So three people that you write down. And then you write down three people who you don't know personally, who you respect and admire. Maybe an athlete, maybe someone entertainment, maybe a business visionary or business leader or entrepreneur or historical figure. So you're left with six people. You got three people who you know, three people who you don't know, and you respect and admire all of those six people. And then on the next column, you write down exactly what it is that you respect and admire about them. So what are their attributes or their skills or their values? Write them down. And what you do next after that is you put your hand over the names of the people and you read out those values, especially the ones that are repeated more than once, like the most frequent ones. And there's a very good chance that those are your winning traits, your core values. And once you're clear on that, that's when we can say, cool, what is my life's purpose? What am I here for? And then we say, awesome, life purpose. And then we say professional purpose here. How do we line them up so your life's purpose becomes your professional purpose? Everything is serving as one. And every action that you take in your life is then one that gives you energy rather than taking it away because you're serving the bigger mission. And then you find goals that are really just markers on the path at that point to show that you're living in alignment with that purpose and in that life. And that's it. That's really it. That's how you connect with wonder. And that's really the first piece. I have these two other big pieces in what I call the win method. But for those who are low on motivation or they're not clear on what that next step needs to be, that's where I would start. Now, there's one other thing to add for that. If there's someone who wants to get to that next level and they need a skill to be able to get there, maybe they want to be recognized as more of an authority in their industry, that's a bit different because it's not so much being connected with wonder. At that point, you need to say, cool, well, who do I need to become to enjoy those results? And that can be, okay, cool. If I want to go and do a TED Talk that gets me 1 million views, what do I need? First of all, is I need a venue. I need a TED Talk event that I can be confirmed for. Then I need a coach. I need a coach to be able to help me with storytelling. I need to be a great student. I need to go and look at the 10 or 20 best TED Talks that were ever done and be a great student to find out what were the commonalities that each of those presentations had that I can use and learn from to interpret in my own way for my speech. Then I need to practice and get feedback. And on the condition that you do all of those different things, you give yourself the best chance of success at that TED Talk, then you can become an authority in your industry through developing that skill. And there's a good friend of mine who wanted to do a TED Talk. It was his dream, and he put it in the email signature. So every single time that he would send an email, it said, my dream is to do a TED Talk. If you know of someone who could help make this happen, I'd greatly appreciate an introduction. And eventually it happened, and that led to a second TED Talk. That's got more than 5 million views and has
Wow.
transformed his life more than anything else possibly could have.
It's amazing how when you put something out into the universe, how valuable it can be and
Mm.
how vulnerable it makes you, but it also puts you in a position where people can help you. I think so many people have this struggle inwardly that they're afraid to share these parts of themselves. And I found that I will tell people something, or you find yourself telling someone something that you haven't even vocalized before, and you're like, "Wow, that sounds like me. That is me. That's so true." And then someone's like, "Oh, I know this person. We should totally have a conversation. That's amazing." And it's so valuable what you're saying. I love that whole concept, just because you're building something out there, and then you're going to see the version of yourself that you want to be.
Yeah, and really flipping the switch on, do the people in my network want to help me or not? Like, are they there to help me, or are they there to harm me? And I guarantee you that they're there to help you. But if they don't know what you want, then they can't help you and they won't. So you being clear on who you are and where you want to go, declaring those intentions. You don't need to do it publicly. You don't need to go and announce on your Facebook page that, look, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in the next year and everything's going to be great. And I'm going to sign a Sports Illustrated cover agreement at the end of all of that stuff. You can, in private conversations, and this is something that I love to do, is to say, look, I'm working on this big thing right now. I would just love your feedback because I value our friendship so much. If you've got 30 minutes, I'd love to be able to take you out for a coffee and we can brainstorm. So with this new business venture that I've been building in the last couple of years, I've been going over to my friends' houses who have also got young kids. So I put my kids to bed, they put their kids to bed. I go to the house at 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. I'm tired. They're super tired. I'm sure the last thing that they want to do is have me come over there and talk about this thing, but I know that they want to help me. So I'm like, cool, let me call up those favors in times of need in particular and get that done. And it's really strengthened the overall projects that I have and everything else.
Did you go through this exact process when you were building the Win the Day podcast and you said, "Hey, it's staring me right in front of my face. You know, this is," it sounded like you laid out grow, connect, and you were considering your impact and integrity. These are the things that were probably in line with how you built that out. Is that a good assessment?
It's so interesting that I've done that for basically everything in my life, but for the podcast and that phase, I don't think it was. So,
Okay.
which is weird, and because it probably should have been, and maybe I would have arrived at it a little bit earlier if I had have gone through that exercise. This was a process of intuition. I was lying in bed one night, and a question popped up in my head without me even consciously being aware of it. And it said, is your involvement in this particular business strengthening you or weakening you? And before I had a chance to even process the question, the answer came in and said, weakening you. And I was like, wow, this is really, really interesting. And then the next question said, is this your path? And the answer was no. And I was like, wow, this is really, really weird, this intuition. And I'm 41 years old now. It's taken me a long time to go all in on trusting my intuition, but I have that now. So I had these different things going on that were pushing me to make the decision to jump out of the plane of these other things that I was involved in. So there I was falling, being like, cool, I've sort of retired at like 40 years old at that point, or 39 years old at that point. What am I going to do from here? But I had the intuition that I was heading in the right direction. And then because a podcast really is the best education. Like, I've done education to some pretty high levels. You know, I have a master's degree in business and bachelor degrees and all of these different things. There is no education like having a podcast where you can sit down and have conversations like this and, you know, ask any question that you want from really successful people. And there was one guy I interviewed who's become a really good friend of mine. His name is Michael Fox, and he has a business called Fable Food Co. And what Michael did was, his biggest business was a company called Shoes of Prey. And he had two business partners, and it was the first women's custom shoe company ever created. So if you're a woman and you want a new pair of fancy shoes, you would go online and you would create your own shoes, design them however you want, and they would be delivered to your door. And the business was doing really, really well. They raised more than $30 million. They partnered with Nordstrom. And then eventually they ended up, you know, the business went under. It just didn't reach their profitability targets, and it just slowly faded away. And that's what can happen, even though from the outside looking in, you have a lot of these things going on. So Michael lost the business. He lost his marriage because his wife was one of the business partners in that venture. So in his mid-30s, he didn't have any money. He'd lost all of these different things, even though his life should have been a mega success at that point. And he said to me, and I'll never ever forget this, he said, when I came home from work, I wasn't reading magazines about women's shoes. And I thought that was so interesting. My whole life is win the day. Everything that in my downtime, I'm watching videos on win the day. I'm writing things on win the day. I'm reading things on win the day. It's everything that I do. All of the conversations that I have are about win the day. And his new company, Fable Food Co., is a meat alternative product. So it uses shiitake mushrooms to replicate like ground beef and steak and these different things. And he's partnered with people like Heston Blumenthal, one of the most highly regarded chefs of all time, and is launched now in dozens and dozens of countries. He's been on that show Down to Earth with Zac Efron. He's absolutely crushing it because in his downtime, he loves reading and doing research about this industry.
If you like clips like this, I have a similar clip here. And if you want to watch the full video, click here.